G'day, how are you? Thank you for dropping in. And in this video, I'm going to give you the 6 tips to how I take what I consider to be my best photos. Now, I don't like necessarily attaching numbers or tips or steps to things because you can see untold videos about that. But the fact of the matter is, these are the 6 things I think about when I'm trying to take my best photos. Okay, so the first thing I look at before I'm about to take a photo is the light. And in all reality, it's probably the light that's attracting you to whatever it is you're going to take the photo of, if not the subject itself. Maybe you've seen the subject is in great light. Maybe you've seen you've got the opportunity of some really interesting light, something you can do something different with, or something you can exploit some of the capabilities of your camera or your skill set. So first of all, I'm looking at the light. And if that's ideal, the next thing I'm looking at is a composition. So I'm looking at the scene overall, and I try and pick out a composition that's going to work best for the photo I'm trying to create. These are situations where you've seen something, you think, wow, that looks lovely, and look at the light, I'm going to take a photo here, how should I frame it? And the fact that I'm talking about there being 6 things to think about does not mean that it has to be an arduous or lengthy process. You can actually apply them really, really quickly and still get great shots in short amounts of moments. And you have to consider things like whether or not you want to add depth or context into the image as well. So that might include introducing foreground elements into the frame, or you might wish to frame it by some sort of other natural or artificial elements that are available to you to do so. So you're thinking about how you can frame the shot to offer depth. And actually one of the later points comes in here, and that's about telling the story or adding context to the frame. So that's the second thing that I consider when I'm stepping up to take the shot. The third thing I work on is the exposure, what I'm trying to achieve, what I want it to look like, how do I want to edit it or manipulate it after the fact, and then I'm exposing for that with the final image in mind. You're thinking about your exposure at the time from what you can see based on what you want to see. Okay, so the light's good, you got your composition sorted, the exposure's all set up, now you got to look at your focus. Now, one of the later things I think about drops in here, and that's a subject. So you need to arrange your focus to bring it onto the subject, make sure it's crystal sharp, tack sharp if that's what you want. And then at this sort of point, you're also thinking about your aperture as well. Now, of course, this is going to loop back to exposure. So often these 6 things are working at different times throughout this process. They are just 6 things to pull out of the hat when you're working out how to take a great photo. But back to the point, within the focus comes the aperture setting, because at that point you want to determine how much of the background or a little slice of the foreground you want to bring into focus, using your aperture to take that depth of field back or a little bit in front as well. Okay, the light, the composition, the exposure, and the focus are all good. Now we're looking at the subject, whether or not we need to do anything with the subject, or whether or not we need to focus on a particular point. Anything to do with the subject, maybe we need to adjust the exposure just to make something pop. And so we're bringing the subject into the photograph now. And the last thing on our list, but certainly not last on our minds, is the storytelling. It's what are we trying to show the person who's looking at this photo after the fact? I mean, are we trying to just show them the object, like there was a Mustang down at the market? So are we trying to show them a wider picture, like, oh, look at all these people approaching that gathering? I don't know, that sort of thing is up to you, but the storytelling knits and weaves right throughout the whole process out of all the things to think about. And hey, after all this, I think if you've thought about the light, the composition, the exposure, the focus, the subject, and the story, that knits it all together, and you've got that all snapped into one frame, then there's every chance you're going to have a really good photo on your hands. And if you don't, oh well, who cares? There's always going to be another photo out there. And look, I am still haunted, as much as many of you may be, by the photos that I've missed, but I'm also still enthused by the opportunities that exist ahead of me, and they exist ahead of you too. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you got something out of this. Enjoy taking photos. Remember, light, composition, exposure, focus, subject, storytelling. You're on to a winner. For other videos I've made around these sort of subjects here, you can check them out right here. Otherwise, have an awesome day, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.